Hi everyone, it's your favourite Atomic Blonde here with a bit of Sunday lunch. My last one for at least a month. As I said last week on the show, obviously I'm off travelling Asia or parts of Korea and Japan for the whole of October. So I doubt I'm going to be able to watch that much TV while I'm away. Very busy schedule. So yes, this is the last one for a little while. I'm going to try and record a few snippets before I go. Maybe try and do some atomic reads, and maybe a few sort of recommends or rewinds for you that can pop up while I'm away. Obviously preparing for this trip and winding up work and all that, I haven't had a lot of opportunity to watch much. I have got so much downloaded on my iPad to watch on the 12.5-hour flight that I've got, so I'll be doing quite a bit of catching up then. But for now, well, let's get into it. Let's have a bit of a chat about what's going on and a few things that I have been watching. And not unsurprisingly, obviously there's some K-dramas in there. So let's crack on, shall we? Right. So, oh gosh, why did I want to start with this? Boom. Yeah. As you know, I'm not really watching Ahsoka. The first episode was so boring. I watched the one with Anakin in to see, what everybody's going. Yeah, like Member Berry Central. Oh, like, do you want to live or die? What lesson is that? It was absolutely ridiculous. And I've not watched the latest episode. I've watched other people's reviews, and from the clips that I've seen, actually seeing the dialogue and things, yeah, it just seems to be getting dumber and dumber and dumber. Yeah, it certainly has not saved Star Wars. It's really kind of shown Filoni up, I think. If they had any aspirations for him to take over and, be head of Star Wars or something, they have to be dumb to go down that route. It's clear that Favreau, even though Mandalorian was by no stretch of the imagination perfect, at least he had some, he does have talent. He does, the story, albeit not perfect, did make sense. There was direction. It resembled Star Wars and people enjoyed it. Obviously he wasn't really involved in season 3 and we saw the shit show that became. Yeah, Star Wars is rip. I have to say, I love Star Wars. I've mentioned this many times. It's an integral part of my childhood and means the world to me. And to see it in this state, but yeah, I mean the IQ levels on this is just ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, what is there to say other than it's probably one of the most stupid shows on TV right now. Every time I even watch anything to do with it, I feel my IQ dropping another couple of points, which then leads me on to Loki season 2. So just as we finally get the last painful episode of Ahsoka next week, I think actually the day after, we're then assaulted with Loki season 2. Loki, obviously season 1, I think was the highest rated Marvel TV show at that point, mainly because of Tom Hiddleston. Again, absolutely destroyed his character. It was all about female Loki. There's a couple of highlights in there with Richard E. Grant and his version of Loki, which is brilliant, but really not enough to save the show or make the show good, in my opinion. And I think a lot of the goodwill that season 1 had will be gone now. So whether that same audience will come back, I don't know. Again, they're heavily playing down female Loki. Can't remember her name. Don't really care. Being in season 2 from the trailer perspective. So again, when we saw the trailers for season 1, it looked like it was going to be a good romp. Season 2, it looks like, yeah, it's going to be like a buddy movie with him and Owen Wilson. We know it's not going to be that. I mean, I heard a rumor that it's all about young female Loki trying to stop old female Loki from blowing up the world or something. So what that's got to do with Tom Hiddleston or the trailer. And for some reason, young female Loki is working in McDonald's. Right, fine, whatever. So again, I have zero faith that this is going to be any good, that it'll actually be starring Tom Hiddleston. He was just, a bit player in his own show in season 1. More than happy to put my hands up if I'm wrong and it actually focuses on him and the story's good. I'm actually hoping for that. I like Tom Hiddleston. I love the character of Loki. I like Owen Wilson. There's lots of stuff I like Owen Wilson in. So yeah, I really hope it could be, it's better. But what we see with Disney, they just never learn. They just double, triple down. I don't see why season 2 is suddenly going to be his show. Who knows? Highly unlikely. And I'm not really sure my brain cells can take another onslaught of stupid Marvel, quite frankly. Yeah. But another nail in the coffin of the on fire Disney, and I'm here for it. Quite happy to see that thing go off a cliff. Obviously, we've had all Iger, oh, we need to quieten the noise, we need to get out the culture war. But he started. he stirred up this hornet's nest and basically burnt his own house down. So well done, Iger. So really we got Dumb and Dumber on the screen. Who knows what's going to happen, but the likelihood of there being an amazing season finale in Ahsoka is 0. And the chances of Loki season 2 being any good, bit more than 1, 2 out of 10. It might be a slim slither that it could be mildly better. But after, this is coming on the back of Secret Invasion, which is like the lowest rated Marvel show after Miss Marvel. I think a lot of people are going to have checked out. So good luck with that one. And staying kind of with Disney here. Oh, Rachel Zegler. Generally, I don't really like to comment on actors or actresses sort of personally. You don't know the people. Often things get, taken out of context. You just kind of like sort of separate the art from the artist, all those kind of things. But this girl, wow, she, from the tweets that we've sent, the language that she uses, the way she insults things, she is the poster child of everything that's wrong with her generation. That, in one breath, she's given it the whole, I support this, I support that, I'm an ally, be kind, don't do this, don't do that, how dare you speak about this group of people like this. And in the next breath, she's calling people ists and phobes and monsters and calling them every name under the sun because she's on the right side of it, so she can be as vile as she likes, while telling everybody else to be kind. She really just seems like a very misguided, entitled woman or young lady, whatever. And I thought the best news I've heard is that she's been replaced, reportedly, on Paddington 3. Personally, I know they're not made for me, but I love Paddington 1 and 2. I have a real soft spot for Paddington. Again, we had this lovely animated version when I was a kid. So everything around was like drawn and was almost like paper cutouts. And then you had a little animated real little Paddington bear. And I grew up on Paddington, so I always had a soft spot for it. So when the films came out, I was like, oh no, they're going to ruin Paddington. And I absolutely love them. It's just the cutest thing. Paddington 2 with Hugh Grant is one of his best roles. He's voyaged now into full-on kind of comedy with this, and in The Gentleman. He is doing some great stuff right now, doing some of his best work, I think. Absolutely loving Hugh Grant right now. So yeah, I was really pleased to see, or hopefully that, and they're using the excuse of we've only got a few weeks left to film. At the time when this broke, well, they're still the actors are still on strike. It's only obviously the writers that are potentially almost no longer on strike until the paperwork's done. So I'm thrilled to see she's not going to be in this. But as I say, they've used that as an excuse, I think. I mean, if there's only 2 weeks left and things are wrapping up, they really don't want to wait for her. And I think, the PR disaster around this girl, they'd rather spend the money and do the reshoots than risk having her anywhere near this project. And I don't blame them. I think good for them, I'm surprised she hasn't come out and said that the Paddington Bear that the whole concept of Paddington's racist and talk about immigration allegories and she'll be off and running, Yeah. And then the other rumor, which I think is highly unlikely, is that she's been fired from Snow White and being replaced. I mean, this thing's finished, I think. There's no way they are going to reshoot the whole thing. The only reason they'd reshoot the whole thing, I think, is if they're going to recast the dwarves to actually be dwarves and rewrite the whole blooming thing. But given the financial state of Disney right now, they've already rumored to have spent $300 million on this garbage. I don't feel this rumor's true. The other rumor is that she's kind of been banned from doing any other PR. Not unsurprisingly. They're like just, I think, telling her to shut up, but talk about single-handedly torpedoing your own career. She's so opinionated, she's so rude, she's so insulting. And the only things that, films she's really had out there were West Side Story, which bombed, obviously Steven Spielberg's remake. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which bombed. I watched that the other week, actually. The first time I didn't bother going to see it at cinema, but it was on Prime, I think. It was available to rent for one whole pound and 99 pence. So I was like, I'll watch that for £2. It was all right, I do prefer the first one, but it was okay. I mean, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be, given how badly it did. But it was all right. It was fine. It was actually great for just a Sunday afternoon, vegging on the sofa, not having to think about anything. It was fine. But when I saw she was in it, I was like, oh, great. But she was all right in it, I suppose, So yeah, I mean, like I say, I don't normally kind of really wish ill on people, Karma will do its thing, and karma is doing this thing, but yeah, she seems a very entitled, I can be as vile as I like to people as long as I feel I'm on the right side of it. And like I say, she is the poster child for X generation, the Twitter generation. That sort of, she was on Twitter, or, was posting things about Gina Carano. What she said about Jeremy Renner was disgusting. And again, she doesn't feel like she has to apologize for anything. So good luck, lady, salvaging your career out of this lot. And quite frankly, couldn't happen to a nicer person. So yeah, roll on Paddington 3. Looking forward to it now. Looking forward to it. Okay, so I mentioned this one last week. It's my K-drama slot. So I was obviously watching Destined with You. That's currently dropping weekly at the moment. So I had another 2 episodes this week. It's great. We've got to the point, as we always do in these love stories, where they've just kind of got together, but then they've remembered something from their past lives, and now she's looks like she's breaking up with him, and they're not going to get together. They always end up together, but we have to go through this roller coaster. I have to say she's not unlikable as a character, but she gaslights him a lot. There's a lot of gaslighting going on in this show, and occasionally I might kind of, oh, hang on, that's a bit uncalled for, lady. But overall, I am really enjoying Destined with You. I'm looking forward to how it ends. I know how it's going to end, but it's how they get there in these dramas that's the important thing. So yes, I mentioned tomorrow last week. Again, also with Ruwan, this gentleman at the front here, kneeling down. He's also in Destined with You. I really enjoyed this, I have to say. So just a little recap. So Rowan's character tried to save a homeless man from deleting himself, and two Reapers turn up, the lady and the gentleman in the back, and they're there to stop him. In the afterlife, heaven and hell are like overcrowded. There's like too many people, especially hell is at bursting seams. So they've come up with the idea of this risk management team who are Reapers, but they're there to try and stop people from deleting themselves, to try and restore the balance, to have more people living out their full life expectancy. So it's kind of written, it's all like preordained, like everybody's destined to live a certain amount of time, and they're trying to restore a bit of balance. Yeah, so he in trying to save this guy, the guy sort of chucks himself off a bridge. He kind of goes after him and ends up in a coma. He then gets approached by the Jade Emperor, who's like the director of the afterlife, to work with the risk management team for 6 months. So he can be in a coma for 6 months and help the team, or he can not help the team and be in a coma for 3 years. So he opts to work with the team. Then we obviously over the weeks we see different stories of them trying to help. They get these alerts on their phones when someone's like getting into danger zone, until it kind of goes up to 100% that they're going to delete themselves. So you normally try and find the person, find out why, what's unhappy, what's wrong with their life, what's going on, to try and help them and course correct and make them understand like how precious life is, no matter how bad it is. And there's consequences. So in the belief system in this show, or in Korea, I guess, but if you delete yourself, like, so obviously in a lot of the Asian religions they believe in reincarnation, and you'll keep meeting the same people and you're sort of bound together, and they have these like red threads, and you're bound together with the people that you love, and you'll meet again when you're reincarnated. So you have the same parents and all those kind of things. If you delete yourself, those ties are severed. So not only do you go to hell, so you won't be reunited with your loved ones, you can't reincarnate with them either. You're detached from that cycle. But people obviously don't know that before they do this, so they believe that they're going on to something better, and they'll see their family again, or certainly the people who they leave behind hope they're going to see. It was like one mother saying, well, when I get to see my son, he took his own life 5 years ago. And people were just, yes, the head of they call it the escort team, who basically see people to the afterlife, and that's where you get judged as to where you go. He is cold as, and he's like, no, he went to hell. Just put it out there. So, and then we learn the backstories of the Reapers. So the lady here, Rion, she was originally in hell for deleting herself, but this was like about 400 years ago, and we learn why she ended up doing that, and it's a very sad story. And all the characters of like why they chose to become Reapers, and kind of not, because if they don't, why not go for reincarnation? Why not, all that kind of thing. So there's lots of backstories going on, just as well as the week-to-week stories. There was one week where they have to save this little dog. He tries to kill himself, and it was such a sweet little story. I'm sitting on the train watching it, like, something in my eye. This little dog. It's it knows it's dying. It's got cancer, and he didn't want to put his owner through having to have him put down. And I'm a big softie when it comes to animals. I'm sitting on the train trying not to cry like a right lemon. But anyway, what I loved about this show, and we often talk about why personally I find these shows, or Korean writing, is so much better than Western writing. There's such a reverence and respect for what's gone before. So when you watch other channels, certainly like R&B and people like that, when they talk about Star Trek, you know, one of my favorite shows. And Gene Roddenberry and that era of people, when they wrote, a lot of them have been through the Second World War. They've had a lot of life experience, that, like, you know, life isn't fair. You can't always get what you want. Bad things happen to good people, all of that stuff. And all those life lessons come out in their writing. So, you know, in this story, there's two separate episodes. But again, one of an older gentleman, he's like 81, and he was a veteran of the Korean War. And there's a whole story around him, and they've done this whole kind of real kind of showing respect for the veterans. And, you know, he hadn't had an easy life, and he kind of just thought, like, you know, his sacrifice had been forgotten about, but he'd always worked hard his whole life, and he felt like he hadn't achieved anything, or it was all for nothing. And they were able to sort of show him actually that, you know, he rescued someone on the battlefield who lost their leg, and at the time he was really angry at him and said, "Oh, I'd rather die than live like this," as you would. But goes on to have a very happy life, you know, gets married, has children, has grandchildren. They track him down, and he finds out all of this, and basically they give him this amazing send off. And there was another one again with an old lady, and this is something I didn't know about. I mean, obviously there was the Japanese occupation of Korea, and the Japanese soldiers were basically kidnapping, or they some of them were kidnapped, but they kind of legitimized it by putting adverts in the paper saying jobs for girls in a factory, accommodation paid for, 3 years, you'll have money. Because obviously a lot of the families, the men were at war or being killed. So women were trying to get, you know, were having to get money and work. And it's transpired that these are basically camps, and they were called comfort girls, I believe. So they're basically taken to these camps and repeatedly raped by Japanese soldiers, and beaten and treated horrifically. A lot of them died. And apparently this was all kind of tried to be covered up, you know, like a lot of things where you got effectively concentration camps, it was all kind of covered up. And I think it was only quite recently in Korean history that the truth about these things came out. And you kind of understand why there's still a lot of anger and hatred between Korea and Japan, or the Koreans don't like the Japanese. But the point is, like, these are very, very moving stories, and I'm envisaging, I don't think the writers' room of these shows are probably that old. They might, you know, be sort of middle-aged at most. But the fact that they look back with such reverence and respect and honor and write these stories, showing what the older generation's been through, and the level of respect that they're showing them telling these stories, and they're handled very, very carefully, and very, very, like, rip at the heartstrings. You know, where we just constantly get this, hence why I talked about Rachel Zegler first, you know, this constant disrespect for the past, and everything's crap, and you're all rubbish, and you're all this, and you're all this, and you're all phobes, and we don't respect anything you did for us, and we can do it so much better, and everything you believed in is wrong, and everything that we believe is right. It's complete disregard for what has come before them. It is just, you know, doesn't come through in the writing. So there was some there's 16 episodes. There were some great stories in here, you know, all around. And I say lots of different reasons why. It's not just someone's down on their luck, or, you know, they're having a bad time, so they're going to delete themselves. You know, it's much more complex than that. The backstories of the Reapers was amazing. And I believe there is going to be a season 2 next year, which again doesn't happen very often. So it must have done exceptionally well to get a season 2. And I'm really looking forward to it. So this is one that is subtitles only. I highly recommend this. I really, really enjoyed it. And like I say, as always, the writing, chef's kiss. So do go check out Tomorrow. It's on Netflix. All 16 episodes are there. Go check it out and have your tissues at the ready. Must be out of 16 episodes. I cried at 3. So the old man, the dog, and the old lady. But that's very, very good. Again, it does kind of fit in some of their sort of revenge genre as well. They have certain they're allowed to do certain things to bad people, shall we say. And there's some great comeuppances in there as well. So loved it. Okay. So up and coming. Again, if you've been following this channel for a long time, you will know I love this show, For All Mankind. It's this and Ted Lasso are the 2 shows that got me into Apple TV. We've got season 4 coming up in November. It's quite late this year. It's normally on over the summer around like July time. There is a trailer out for it now. Do go check it out. You can find it on YouTube, and it's done like a TV advert. So when you follow this, there's a company called Helios who basically done like a private mission to get to Mars. So you had like NASA, the Soviets, and this Helios project all trying to get to Mars first and colonize Mars. So now it's like, and every season there's a time jump. So the first season started back in the 60s. And the premise of this show, if you don't know, is kind of a bit of an alternative parallel history. So in this version, the Russians got to the moon first rather than the Americans. And what would that have done to the space program if they'd actually lost? So what you find in this version is that the Americans pumped much more money into the program. They didn't want to be beaten again. They had to catch up. They had to overtake. So they were like the first ones like to have a moon base, even though they didn't get to the moon first. And then they got this, who's going to get to Mars first? So the first series was kind of like 60s. Second was 80s, or sort of 70s, 80s. Then third season was like, 80s, 90s. And then I guess we're going to be in the noughties now. But so it's quite big time jumps between them. But it's a really, really well-written show. I would say fabulously well-written show. You really invest in the characters. Nobody's safe in this show as well. I mean, obviously, they're astronauts. It's dangerous. Bad things can happen. But so when things do happen to these characters, you really feel it. The first season was brilliant. The second one was good, but dragged a little bit. Third season knocked out the park. So I'm really looking forward to season 4. I think this has kind of had a bit of misrepresentation. I think because of at the time when the show came out, they were leaning very heavily into women in space because everything was about MCU and women this and women that. Don't let that put you off, because that is actually not how it plays out. What happened was that, again, because it's sort of parallel history, the Soviets obviously had the first female astronaut in our time as well, but they were letting women into the astronaut program. Therefore, America said, right, we've got to do better. we've got to beat the Soviets at this. So they scour the country and select female pilots from all different, not just like military, but all different types of pilots. Bring a group in to train as astronauts who then get through to the program. But it's that's not the only thing that's going on, and it does actually add a layer to what's going on. And again, like I say, when this happened, this was supposed to be set in the 60s, early 70s. So yes, there's a lot of sexism because that's reflective of the time. But these are no way Mary Sue's. These are very flawed late women. They're not perfect. Some succeed, some fail. But again, very well written, well-rounded characters. And like I say, they're not. It's not centric to them. They just become a layer as part of the story. And again, you get invested in their characters. Some of the characters are based on actual people who were part of the space program. Some are based on real astronauts, etc. But you've kind of gone through the whole Cold War kind of side of things, and there's all these layers of sort of intrigue and the relationships between the American space program and the Soviet space program. It's a fantastically well written and acted show. I cannot recommend this enough. Again, going back to R&B, he kind of says it's like the unofficial kind of prequel to Star Trek. You could take this and say this is how this is what the race looked like to get to Starfleet, and he's absolutely right. It's just absolutely brilliant. If you love your sci-fi, you love drama, a bit of a thriller, this should be right up your alley, because it's not sort of science fiction. It's obviously just more about a show set about getting into space. It'd be quite interesting to see, because obviously up until now we've kind of had real history to parallel against and how things have changed. The show is now kind of getting to the point where it's going to surpass us, and they can now start being really creative about, well, where would things go and what would happen next and what would happen with technology, things like that. Because there was an interesting thing in the last season that because we have, colonies on the moon, and they've got to Mars, they have been able to extract new chemical ways of creating energy. So that was having an impact on Earth, because if we weren't reliant on fossil fuels and oil, that industry was going under, or that wasn't making the money because there was alternative fuel. So there's certain things that, again, very interesting. So if we'd done this and found this, what would that do to the world on Earth and the economy, etc.? So it's not just about space. There's lots of interrelationship things. It's a very clever show. Ronald D. Moore, Battlestar Galactica, is obviously one of the creators of this, and is a writer. And you can sort of see his caliber coming through in this. I cannot recommend this enough. It's an absolutely great show. Do check it out. So it's going to be on Apple, I believe, November 10th. It drops weekly. There's already 3 seasons. This is season 4. So do try and catch it. I've recommended this to a few people who are a little bit, I'm not sure that's really me, or they heard about the women thing. They've absolutely loved it, like smashed through season 1 and said, you're right. So what can I say? Do go check that out. So I think that's it for this week. Short and sweet. As I say, I really haven't had a lot of time to watch much TV. I've got so much. I'm going to be finishing Evil. I'm going to be finishing From on the plane. There's a new K-drama, Time to Be With You, I think it's called, a time travel one. Her partner dies, and then she wakes up in the 80s and meets this guy who looks exactly like her partner, isn't the same person, goes from there. Don't know a lot about it, but let me just what's that called? Let me just check. No. This is riveting for you, isn't it? They're like, oh, we don't even care around you. No. So, oh my word. Edit this one. A Time Called You, it is called. So I will be downloading that puppy as well, A Time Called You, and I will let you know whether it's any good or not. I believe this one is dubbed as well, so you can, if you prefer not to have the subtitles, but I do say give them a go. The storytelling is so good. You kind of almost stop noticing you're reading subtitles after a while, and it sounds a bit bizarre, like how does that work? But you just get so engrossed in the story, you don't really care. So, Anywho's, so I'm out of here. I've got a lot of packing to do. Looks like a bomb's gone off in my spare room in terms of clothes. It's like I'm just in a world of chaos. I know, first world problems, hey. So anyway, like I say, I'll be back in about a month's time. But in the meantime, as always, do leave some comments. Let me know some shows I should be checking out while I'm away, things to download for the plane, and let me know about what you think about what I've spoken about. Are you enjoying Ahsoka? Is it anybody? And yeah, Loki season 2. That is one I will not be downloading for the plane, FYI. I think I will wait until I get back and see what people say, and if it's worth watching, I'll give it a binge. But if you're stuck on a flight for like 12 and a half hours, I need good stuff to watch. So again, any recommendations and things to download, let me know, and I will see you soon. Have a great week, month, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.